Welcome dear students. In this module, we will discuss regarding anti-browning or bleaching agents for the food industry as well as anti-caking or we can say free-flowing agents for the food industry. Why anti-browning agents? Because we want the product to be whiter and with lesser brown specks which is unappealing. While why we need free-flowing agent is because we don't want a dried product to be lumpy or cakey. As for example, salt should be free-flowing and easy for consumption. We'll start with anti-browning agents that are used as food additives in our food industry. Before we talk about anti-browning agents, we should know why we want to use these ingredients in foods. The major reason of using this food additive is to increase the color appeal of any food product wherever browning occurs. Browning in food products not only reduces its appeal but also takes away many nutritive value of the food product. So these ingredients may help to give you better quality food in terms of both appearance as well as nutrition. Now what is browning in foods? Now foods are subjected to degradative reactions when during handling, processing or storage, and it is collectively described as browning reactions, that is the formation of brown, black, grey or red colored pigments. So in totality the color looks darker in color and sometimes people prefer a product to be more whiter as for example for milk and milk products which people like to see them as white. Now these browning reactions in foods can be categorized into two groups. One is enzymatic browning and the second one is non-enzymatic browning. Enzymatic browning usually is observed in case of fruits and vegetables, especially after cutting of these fruits or vegetables we see brown coloration, and the major reason is the enzyme polyphenol oxidase. Non-enzymatic browning is browning of shelf-stable pasteurized juices, dehydrated vegetables, dairy products because of processing, storage and further handling. Now we'll discuss in detail regarding enzymatic browning. It is oxidation of polyphenols to quinones catalyzed by the enzyme polyphenol oxidase. This enzyme is highly prevalent in fruits and vegetables, and wherever it is present it will start deteriorate the polyphenols and convert them into quinones which are darker in color. Polyphenol oxidase is also sometimes referred to as tyrosinase or diphenol oxidase or catechin oxidase. After oxidation, further reaction takes place and the polymerization of quinones makes the product darker. It generally happens with raw commodities because of physiological injury, maybe senescence, pre or post harvest bruising, disruption of the fruit or vegetable flesh by peeling, coring, slicing or juicing. May also be due to tissue disruption from freeze-thaw cycling and tissue disruption by bacterial growth. Hence, we can possibly see this kind of browning in fresh fruits and vegetables as well as in frozen fruits and vegetables. This can also result in loss of ascorbic acid, that is vitamin C, through reaction with quinones, thus reducing its nutritive value. It can be controlled by blanching, acidification and application of some food additives, as for example commonly used is a sulfite or sulfite substitutes such as ascorbic acid or cysteine. Now what is non-enzymatic browning? Non-enzymatic browning reactions can be termed as a Maillard reaction between carbonyl and free amino groups, that is between reducing sugars and amino acids. It produces melanoidin pigments and these pigments are brown in color. The foods in which this kind of browning occurs are dairy, cereals, fruits and vegetable products during heat processing mainly. Such discolorations generally occur in products that are subjected to heat and or prolonged storage. Non-enzymatic browning can be minimized by avoidance of excessive exposure to heat, control of moisture content in dehydrated products, and application of sulfites. Here, moisture content is important because it also plays a major role during reaction of the amino acids as well as the reducing sugars. Now let us discuss regarding some of the anti-browning agents. First and the foremost, we'll start with sulfites, a very extremely potent browning inhibitor. It is again inexpensive to use and has multiple functions, which again exhibits antimicrobial activity as well as anti-browning activity. It controls both enzymatic as well as non-enzymatic browning. It can be applied as sulfur dioxide, sulfurous acid, or sodium or potassium sulfite, bisulfite or metabisulfite. It is usually used in dehydrated fruits and vegetables, pre-peeled potatoes, fresh grapes and wine. However, there are reports that sulfites are responsible for causing severe allergic reactions in susceptible individuals, and especially those suffering from disease like asthma. This problem arises very fast and it may be fatal for them as well. As a result, FDA has put regulations on usage of sulfites and sulfite agents in food products, and mainly it is banned to be used in raw fruits and vegetables. Again, if you want to use sulfites in other vegetable and fruit products, you have to label them as it is containing sulfites. Now, as discussed, sulfite is a very potent anti-browning agent. But because of the reactions that it may produce in an individual, its usage has been restricted. And even if it is used, it has to be labeled on the package, and sometimes consumers do not prefer a product containing some chemical ingredient. As a result, there have been number of researches till it is going on to find alternatives to sulfites. But the problem lies because these alternatives are less effective than sulfites, and thus the choice of these agents represent a compromise. Again, the sulfite substitutes should also be safe and free of regulatory constraints. And most alternatives represent combinations of agents that act synergistically. They cannot act alone to give the potency as good as that of sulfites. Hence, it is important that we have to select a very good alternative which is as good as sulfites with minimum effects on human body, and it is not banned by regulatory bodies. As a result, eventual development of genetically engineered commodities lacking PPO or with reduced levels of this enzyme, PPO is a polyphenol oxidase, will actually eliminate the need for browning inhibitors. And the research in this line is more important nowadays than adding any other chemical food additives. Now we will discuss regarding some of the alternatives to sulfites. First is ascorbic acid. It is most widely used alternative to sulfiting agents. It can be added to syrups or dips to control browning of fresh fruits and vegetables as well as their products. It actually eliminates the capacity of juices to undergo enzymatic browning. Sliced and frozen apples as well as peaches can be applied with ascorbic acid to eliminate browning problems in these products as well. The second alternative that has been tried is cysteine. This anti-browning agent has been used as browning inhibitor formulations for apples and pre-peeled potatoes. Glutathione and N-acetylcysteine are nearly as effective as sulfites, but only cysteine is approved for food use. Hence, out of all this, we can use only cysteine, but glutathione and N-acetyl cysteine are not approved and cannot be used for food products as a food additive. The next alternative is 4-hexylresorcinol. It is used commercially to control discoloration of unpeeled shrimp, and it is highly effective browning inhibitor for some fruits and vegetables. It is not a very common anti-browning agent commercially used, but can be very effectively used in this kind of products. And there are other PPO, that is polyphenol oxidase inhibitors, like cinnamic acid. These are natural ingredients from cinnamon. You can have kojic acid, you can have carrageenans and other sulfated polysaccharides. And maltodextrin to some extent has also been used as polyphenol oxidase inhibitors. Some natural polyphenol oxidase inhibitors are also found in honey, pineapple, fig latex and a large number of botanical products. So a way has to be found to extract these natural polyphenol oxidase inhibitors from these natural ingredients and add it into food products with proper usage can actually eliminate the problem of polyphenol oxidase reactions. Some complexing agents has also been tried as anti-browning agents. As for example is beta-cyclodextrin. It forms inclusion complexes with chlorogenic acid and other polyphenol oxidase substrates. One more complexing agent that has been tried is PVPP, that is an insoluble product used as a fining agent for juices, and it can also bind the polyphenol substrates of PPO. This is PVPP is a commercial complexing agent and it has been used by that commercial brand for as a anti-browning agents in enzymatic type of browning. Another anti-browning agent as a complexing agent is a sodium acid pyrophosphate, that is SAPP in short, which chelates ferrous ion, prevents dark colored iron chlorogenic acid complexes, and as a result, because of this complex formation, the browning formation in the food product is avoided. Polyphosphates can also be used, and this is termed as Sporix commercially, which is highly effective in controlling browning of cut apples and apple juices. Again, it is a patented commercial product. Then we can also find some synergistic effects between two anti-browning agents, as for example, combinations of beta-cyclodextrin with SAP, that is sodium acid pyrophosphate, Sporix, sodium hexametaphosphate or phytic acid resulted in greater browning inhibition as compared to using them individually. So with this we end discussion regarding anti-browning agent. Now we'll move forward with anti-caking agent, or we can also call it as a free-flowing agent. Very important ingredient, because whenever you go and use some dried products, you make sure that the product is not moist, it is not caking, it is free-flowing and you can easily add it into your food products. The best example is salt, which you desire to be always free-flowing, never moistened. Now, first of all, we should know what is an anti-caking agent. So, it is an additive placed in powdered or granulated materials such as table salt to prevent the formation of lumps and for easing packaging, transport as well as consumption. So, what is the function of this anti-caking agent? How does it act? So, what it can do? It can absorb excess moisture because it is more hygroscopic in nature as compared to the product to which it is added. Hence, it will absorb excess moisture and again remain dry. So, it is making the product free-flowing. Or, these anti-caking agents can become a coating particle and make the particles after coating, make them water repellent. As a result, it is not absorbing any moisture. The best examples are, you have silicates. Different forms of silicates are highly used as free-flowing agents or anti-caking agents in different food products. Calcium silicate is one of the example which is commonly used as anti-caking agent in table salts, and it absorbs both oil as well as water. Now, where you can use these anti-caking agents? As I told you, it is usually used in dried products where you need the product to be free-flowing in nature. You don't want them to be lumpy or caking. So, you use usually anti-caking agents in salts, in dried milk substitutes, in egg mixes, ready-to-eat mixes, sugar products like icing sugar, flours, cake mixes, ready-to-make or ready-to-eat mixes, powdered spices like chili powder, pepper powder, shredded cheeses, etc. Some of the common anti-caking agents are listed here with their E numbers, and few examples I can say it is tricalcium phosphate, powdered cellulose, magnesium stearate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium ferrocyanide, potassium ferrocyanide, calcium ferrocyanide, bone phosphate, sodium silicate, silicon dioxide, calcium silicate, as I told, is used in table salt, magnesium trisilicate, even talcum powder is used, sodium aluminosilicate, many times used in milk powders, potassium aluminium silicate, calcium aluminosilicate, bentonite aluminum silicate, stearic acid, polydimethyl siloxane. So there are a number of anti-caking agents out of which you can use a suitable anti-caking agent for a particular food product. Let us take a look on the health effects of these anti-caking agents. Obviously, there are pros and cons. If you are adding some food additive, you definitely expect some health effects, may be beneficial or may be toxic in nature. One example is magnesium carbonate. It is good because magnesium is used in the treatment of heart attack patients and promotes the health of arteries, bones, nerves, teeth, and also it is a low sodium salt substitute in table salts. So it is good for you. But in other way around, if you use sodium aluminium silicate, here you have aluminium into it. And aluminium is known to cause placental problems in pregnancy and has been linked to Alzheimer's as well as Parkinson's disease as well as bone loss in human beings. So when you are selecting a particular anti-caking agent, you should know about these ill effects and a particular type for a particular person is suited. Anti-caking agents like magnesium stearate and sodium ferrocyanide, there are no adverse effects known for their use in foods. So it can be safely used in food products. So to conclude this module, I'll say there are recent advances in anti-browning agents and even improved application methods are available. It is always good to use some kind of process which is not harmful rather than using a food additive which may be harmful to your body. As for example, you can use processes like heat treatment or blanching to inactivate polyphenol oxidase enzyme so they don't cause browning in fruit and vegetable products. But wherever such kind of processes are not possible or not sufficient to control these enzymes, you have to add some anti-browning agents to extend their shelf life as well as to retain their nutritive value. As far as anti-caking agents are concerned, they are very important in dried products to extend their shelf life because till the end of shelf life, the product may be good chemically, good microbiologically, but it may have taken up moisture, so it becomes unsuitable to be consumed by consumers. As a result, if you use anti-caking agents, it can extend the shelf life of these dried products. However, whenever you are using any food additive, you definitely have to go through regulatory hurdles, labeling issues, even lack of competitive advantages and cost incurred by addition of these food additives, and thus may limit the commercialization of promising treatments by use of anti-browning and anti-caking agents. So continuous research in this regard is required to develop effective anti-browning treatments as well as anti-caking agents which are safe as well as having good effect in food products. Thus we have seen the importance of both anti-browning agents as well as free-flowing agents in food products. Now both are food additives, hence their limits has to be regulated, but they are important to extend the shelf life of any food products. So in limits, in proper proportion, in desired quantity and desired selection of anti-browning as well as free-flowing agents for a particular food product is important for us to get a good quality food product. Thank you.